This meeting is being recorded.
That's okay. We wrote this for 680. And then when Tony came to Lori and said, hey, look, we want to have this shared capstone, Lori and I rewrote the course for MAID and MACE.
Okay.
And then we thought, okay, well, how can we make this course live longer? And we thought, oh, well, we'll just throw in the PLOs for Mackie. That'll be easy. But when your program came along, we automatically thought, oh, we'll just throw in the PLOs and be done. But that's not as simple because there's not enough language here for your students. They're in early childhood education. They're not in K through 12, which I know ECE can be birth through third grade.
Yeah, depends on who you're talking to, but yeah.
Right. So I just kind of went through the course guide and just looked and see how we could modify it. I don't think it needs to be totally redesigned, but I think we can just add some language in there and some prompts to support the students so that they can choose. So this is from just week 1, and I did not go over other weeks. I just looked at week 1, and this one's talking about diversity in 21st century teaching and learning. So then I put in early childhood education, 21st century teaching and learning, and came up with the NACE. Is that how you say it? The NACE website. And they have quite a bit in there about diversity and teaching. So what I thought is what about if we go through the course and just include early childhood education so that students can pick, they could either pick K-12 or early childhood education. And then like this one, they pick 3 out of 5. So we would have to include some more prompts and change that wording. But we could totally add some more prompts that deal with ECE. And I mean, ideally, you would want the MAID students to pick something that goes with MAID and the ESE students to pick something that goes with special ed. But I think as an instructor, that would be a logistical nightmare. And so having students, maybe we have MAID students in early childhood centers and they would pick that. And that would be completely fine.
Well, special education goes birth through adulthood too. So we end up, I have a lot of pre-K and we call it PPCD in Texas, but the preschool program for children with disabilities where a lot of times the Common Core state standards aren't as applicable to their situation too. So it not only supports Tamika's grad students, but it definitely aligns with giving additional options for MACE students as well.
Can I say this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Let me say this. I've spent a little time, I haven't taught that class, and so I may be looking at this from the scope of, I don't really understand I don't give much credence to this idea that this course is written in such a way that a MASL student would be dropped in and they would feel like it's written for computer science. I actually just kind of went through the course. Sorry. I just glanced through the course and even just what's popped up there right now, the framework for 21st century learning. It was just covered in the last course, the last MASL course. So for me, a part of being a leader is that adaptability. And so really what I think this boiled down to, this student is requesting a refund. And I am literally like, I can't justify that because there is learning value in this course. Even if I just look at the, 5 bullets that are there, I would imagine that any course that I've taught should be able to look at this because you haven't asked them to look at such a specific set that they couldn't apply this information to something that they've done as an educator. So I do like the idea that we're willing to modify the course. I definitely don't think it needs to be a full-fledged rewrite, but I also think that maybe this student in particular and those other who are coming through, we need to communicate that an effective leader is adaptable and they are willing to make changes. And so when you read this, while it may not have your name in every sentence, you should definitely be able to look at it and see how it applies to you.
Well,
so I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say, and the reality is that, so I think about this from I have a nursing educator currently, right? And I have a trainer, a military, I don't know what he does, but he's a trainer essentially. And the reality is that they all have had to sort of be responsive, because a lot of the language, I mean, we're trying to shift as we rewrite MAID courses to be a little bit more broad. But like right now, if you're not in K-12 education and you're in a MAID course, you have to kind of wing it. Like the T-Mobile trainer that I have, she's just kind of like finessed her way through it. And I've allowed her, once I knew that's what she did, I allowed her certainly some discretion of like, make it work for you. But you're right. I mean, I think on the student side, there does need to be a willingness to be flexible. But I do like the idea of incorporating some additional language so that it doesn't feel like that they're excluded, that we're at least being intentional about trying to respond to their focus area.
I would agree. Oh, go ahead, Tamika. You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. My only concern is with a lot of the NACI stuff, which is what we tend to go to. They move their stuff around so much that I'm concerned that if we use too many resources, that when NACI ends up having issues or they just move pages around, that then these same students will be like, I tried to use that link and that's not something necessarily that is just applicable to this course. It could be, I really need to communicate with my students to, if there's a resource and you have the name, utilize everything available to you first before you reach out to your instructor. Because like this NACI stuff is really good, but I can tell you they change the URL on that like every 2 weeks. Not literally, but.
Well, and we saw that happen with the P21. That whole website went down, and now it's called something else. So the course needs to be, those words in this course for P21 need to be renamed. Mm-hmm. So my second thought was, this is one example. My other thought was, let's take out everything that has to do with P21, the framework, any specific website, and let's just make this really a course that'll live for a lot longer. And how we can do that is just take out all this words about framework and P21 and put those as recommended resources. So that way the student, if they're MAID or MAISL or whatever, you can say, well, have you looked at the recommended resources to answer the discussion prompt? And we could even put that in the discussion prompt using the recommended resources and the resources provided for this week, answer this prompt.
Kathleen, just to clarify though, you're still talking about keeping the concepts of 21st century learning, just the specific place that you access it, shifting to recommended resources, right? Right.
So in this case, it would be select 3 or 5 prompts below and then discuss how, and you would take this all out, how they can be applied using specific examples from the resources this week or something like that.
I am afraid we're going to lose the concepts of 21st century learning, though, the core skills there that are not necessarily related to curriculum that I think are so valuable if we take out completely. Is there a way that we can talk about them in more of a theoretical, philosophical standpoint, listing out the actual skills and then refer to the recommended resources?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
And because both of those, because like we just talked about the 21st century learning as well, if it's something maybe that applies consistently across the programs, keep it in. But if it's something very specific that's going to require a lot of modification, because they are all coming from different majors, that could be the opportunity where they can be told, using the research or resources that you have been provided over the duration of your program, this could be a great time for you to use that to modify your assignments or to include something in your e-portfolio that is specific to you. Because see, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, it's almost like we're training them for their doctoral work. And that really is going to require that they look at what it is and then specify it for them. So I like the idea of trying to make it a little general, but if there are things that we can apply across the board, if we could keep those, I think that'd be great.
In any of the prompts, do they actually have to identify what like in the guided response, so they have to identify like what program they're in or anything. And so like, do you ever distinguish between like, if you're a MACE student or you're a MASL student, respond to a MAID student, or is it not there?
Almost all the time, because they have to reference their specific PLOs and how it relates to their learning. Sorry, Kathleen, you're a better expert at the course than I am, but
but that's one thing. Jesse's right. They do, but it's not explicit after week 1.
Okay.
And so as an instructor, unless you're keeping a spreadsheet of who's in what program, it's very difficult. So that's another thing. If we're going to tweak this or revise this, that's something that I definitely want in there. Like your name and your program needs to be at the top of every discussion post.
Yeah. I think that would be helpful as well. And it sounds like we've kind of been given a green light that this is a priority to make whatever suggested changes we want to make, and not, I think do them manageably, not a complete rewrite, but just some tweaking of language. It sounds like that's all blessed and ready to go.
Okay.
while we're on that subject, we need to check with Lauren of what her preferred language is for Portfolium.
We're I happen to know that just because we're changing ours in May, because we've been using Pathbright. So we are using, as a college, Portfolium.
Right.
And so, but they are leaving it that way as an e-portfolio, and then somehow I think they're putting it like the suggested link to Portfolium.
And that's how I went through and changed the full course guide. As I listed out everything that said ePortfolio, I said, please link to Portfolium. However, there were like the sections in the resources. I don't know if we have to cite Portfolium since it's a part of Canvas, or if we need to pull that out. That's the piece I needed to check with Lauren about. And I just made a note for them in the course guide at this stage.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I see that.
So we leave it ePortfolio, link to Portfolium. That's actually, Kathleen, that's pretty much how it is throughout the entire document already. I tried to catch most of them, at least the first time it's mentioned in each prompt.
I want to just confirm, I'm going to look here. The term, ePortfolio though, isn't a brand, is it?
No, it was just a general term that Kathleen, Lori, and I discussed when we were revising this and trying to make it Mackie, Mace, Made combo.
And that's the way it's been referred throughout the MASL program too. As ePortfolio. Sorry.
So I guess next steps, Kelly, is do you know when they want this revised?
No, I think that we could sort of set ourselves a timeline and then just say that this is what we're thinking, and by X date, we can send an updated course guide. I don't anticipate there being any changes to rubrics, so it would just be updated course guide, right? That's really it.
Jesse, didn't you send updates? Hold on. You've already changed instructor guidance. Am I correct on this? Hold on, let me move it over so I can see your face. Okay. It looks like you did the PLOs, the course guide, the instructor guidance.
And the rubrics.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was because of the PLOs being the CLOs for this course. Everything had to be updated to make sure, because those assignments they do reference the PLOs for your program. They reference the program name. So those are the only changes I made to the rubric, was mapping out the PLOs per assignment and then the actual program name. So we would have to assess based on the changes that we make related to 21st century learning and the other concepts if we would have to make rubric changes. What do you think, Kathleen?
I think we would have to make rubric changes. I think the rubric needs to be changed in some areas because students miss consistently. Yeah.
I can reach out to respond to that email that sort of says, hey, this has been given, everybody's on board with this. We might be able to move forward with the changes that, Jesse, that you guys have already made, and then this being a secondary round, because this, just confirming, my experts here, that this would just be like essentially a craft, like not a Senate piece, right? Not
going through governance, isn't it? ladies?
It has to go through governance here. Hold on. I can tell you what parts of it, but it's more so, it seemed like what we needed to take through governance was more so, hold on. I'm sorry. Let me pull up a to-do list real quick.
While you're doing that, I believe, Kelly, what I read in that email was that is the preference, is that we go forward with what we've changed so that MASL is included and that language is changed. And then we go back through with the fine tooth comb and make the changes in phases. That's how I interpreted it.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And so in other words, hold on, am I looking at a different one? Sorry, that's a different one. That's the gist of it though. That 696, it'll go through. So in other words, terminology changes in both to remove MASL. So what we're taking through is like the overall change, but not these specific revisions. But we're trying to get it through governance as far as like making the changes to the actual 696 and 694. We're trying to get that through by June. But it seemed that basically it was like we could just send this information and these changes will be made. That's kind of been my understanding.
Yep, I'm looking back at that email. So essentially keep moving with what is already in progress. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I talk with Denise, then she's going to talk with Jen Wirch to see kind of what the next steps, but they said that this would be a priority to get done. So yes. What's a reasonable amount of time to tackle, making some of the suggestions for verbiage changes and then having probably Tamika's eyes on that as well? I don't know what additional steps you think we need.
Well, I'm willing to do the initial tackle of it with Jessie, if she will, because we've taught the course.
Happy to do it.
So maybe I could dive in this week or next week. I guess it's already Wednesday. Dive in next week and then maybe send it to you, Jessie, on Friday for review and edits and whatever else you think.
Sounds good.
And then the following week to you, Tamika and Kelly.
That'd be great.
Maybe a July 1, we have it ready for build. I just don't want it to sit too long because knowing there's more students coming down the pike.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say full disclosure because I'm not working this vacation. The end of the month, look, I'm serious about this one too. The end of the month, going into my anniversary, which is July 1st, I'm planning on taking vacation. So anything that I need to do, I will be doing my best to get it done before then because I don't want to take a phone or a computer. So if that, means that I need to work extra hard on the front end, please let me know. But that's my plan.
Where are you going, Tamika?
We haven't even actually decided yet, but everybody was told, block your calendar, nothing on the calendar. I even met with Heather Mason to move my teaching because that's been one of the big complaints. You go on vacation, you're on a cruise ship and you're still teaching. It looks a little ridiculous. So,
Kathleen, that looks familiar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, your family loves that.
Yeah, don't they?
Yeah. So I think getting it to me next week and me going through it sounds absolutely fantastic.
Okay. Might be week after next.
Yeah,
for
2
you.
weeks is what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, still early in June though.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. June works for me.
Okay. Cool.
Kathleen, can I bring up one more thing about the other capstone while we're sort of all together?
Absolutely.
I know we talked about this once before, and at the time it didn't quite jive. But so the PLC week 3 in the research course, I love it, but I still am an advocate for moving the group agreement to a week 2 discussion. So they have it in place the week prior, and I know this is going to be Denise and Jen Wirch and Lauren would hate us for it because it's asking for another change, but allowing them the opportunity to get together as a group and make their plan the week before in week 2, so that when they hit week 3, they can already have everything divided out and focus those full days on the implementation of the group agreement instead of the development and the implementation due on that Thursday. That's just I'm advocating for the number of times that students end up, we can't get a hold of our group members and it's Thursday morning and we haven't made a plan and we still have to create everything. And I don't know what it would take to change it, or if, I know you've taught it many times too. I don't know if everyone else experiences the same thing I do every time that we go through it. But I just feel like that one shift of keeping everything written as it is, but shifting it, just the group agreement, the discussion 1, to make it a second discussion in week 2 prior to, so that they're prepared going in.
I think that's a great idea, because once again, in both of my classes, I have had to leave the discussion open until Wednesday night at midnight because they couldn't get it together to do it. So I say in 696 and in 694, we moved that group agreement 1 week prior. That's a great idea. Yeah.
It just gives them that prep week, and then we account for and take into consideration the varying schedules that our student population has.
Do you worry a little bit in 694 of drops when making groups, or just deal with it?
I feel like, at least, I don't know how you do it. I make the groups big enough that if one student drops, there's still enough in there to do it. So I think maybe just emphasizing to instructors for both 696 and 694 to keep the group size,
Large.
3 to 4.
Yeah.
And then, or maybe even 3 to 5. That way, if you have drops, you still have a group of 2 to 3.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Yay!
I'm such a decision maker.
And ladies, how do you feel about that?
Whatever you say.
I was going to say, I'm not even involved in that course, but it sounds good. Anything that can give the students more time.
There is a group activity in 696 as well. It kind of mirrors what 694 does, but it's a smaller version of it. So it just to give a little background, students already dread the collaboration in the group, and I emphasize every time it's more about the process. Don't worry so much about your grade and getting nasty with these classmates that you're worried that they're not doing their part, but it's about the collaboration. Aside from that, they're already worried about it. And so when it comes down to, you've got somebody who's in the military or working 2 jobs and they don't get to their discussions until Thursday, and they have to make a plan and implement it on the same day. I have a lot of panicked students and end up doing so many extensions out of just take your group can have a little bit more time. It's fine. But I feel like if we move it, we can kind of help them support with some of that.
I was going to say, that sounds like a great rationale to have it earlier rather than later, so that you can be sure that more people are getting it done by week 6.
Yeah. I have one other thing, and it essentially, Tamika, I don't know that this applies to you, so if you want to bag off, it's fine. It's a course thing. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you said I can go? I'm sorry.
You can if you want. I mean, it's not really exciting, but I need Kathleen and Jesse's input for sure while they're captive.
Okay. Are we circling back for anything else? Or, I mean, I can stay on and just tune out if you need me to.
Is there anything else we need to circle back around to other than?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, can I say thank you guys so much for all of your work on this. I know this has been a pain in the butt for me, and it's my program. So thank you so much.
It's nice to all be able to share something like this and continue to keep it moving. I love it. Kathleen, I bow down to your leadership with the capstones.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And Kathleen, please just know I'm still trying to reach out to her. She was supposed to call me back, so I'll probably give her a day, maybe more, and then just try to give her a call back, and then that's pretty much going to be it. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I think she's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't tell her, absolutely, we're going to change the whole course. I just said, well, that's something to consider. And
thank you for your feedback.
Effort goes into building these courses, and we take everything. So I was trying to be politically correct.
Cool beans. Well, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Tamika. Your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, so Kathleen, yesterday, this is a weird thing. All right. Lauren said to me, and you saw a little bit about this, Kathleen, in the email. Lauren said, okay, what course shells should we just go in and we'll change the old made PLOs and we'll put in the new ones and like call it a day, right? So what are the course shells that should happen? So I had asked you about 694. So in the meantime, Lauren said, I just need the core courses. Okay, so I sent a list and sent it to Denise. And Denise said, no, you're wrong. The courses you listed are not right. Here's a document. And I'm like, crap, like, what am I doing? So then yesterday I talked to Jesse, and I'm like, on my core course list, so it's this list from
1975.
You ladies weren't even born yet. I could at least speak words at that time.
I was 2017, okay? But this is like essentially Jen's list that she gave me. I've written notes on it, but this is like my Bible for MAID. Now I know the courses a little bit more, so I'm like, it says clearly here, ESE 601 is a MAID core course that is a course lead by Jesse. So I'm like, okay, and I've had MAID students talk about this course. I'm like, I guess all MAID students get a special ed course. Okay, that's good practice. So when I said to Denise, this is the list, and she was like, no, ESE 601 is not a MAID core course. And I'm like, okay, I must have it wrong. So then I reached out to Kingsley, who reached out to a student advisor to confirm. ESE 601 is in the recommended core course requirements to get a MAID to be in the MAID program.
So it's on every degree plan?
Every degree plan.
That's something I really need to know so I can reword a few things.
So in the MAID, in ESE 601, MAID, talk about issues with like not being inclusive with language. MAID isn't referred to.
No, not at all.
I don't know if that was like a replacement for EDU 671.
Right.
And then we never went back and like, were we supposed to have done something and put another course in place?
When I came on to the
teaching
program,
panel courses that we could substitute in.
Well, and when I came on with Lori in the program, that wasn't something that was ever made clear to either one of us. As far as I know, that it was we knew, those that were taking the specialization would be taking the courses, but I did not realize then. Any of the times I've taught 601, I've had other students come through, but when they say MAID, I always assume they're in the special education specialization, although it does explain the student I had most recently, who in every discussion, even though I don't think it's fair that people with special needs get extra funding and extra help, I had to correct every single week with, first of all, it's the law, and let's take a deep breath and back off and look at this from the big picture. Every single assignment, there was a paragraph indicating why she thought that special education students got unfairly favored and additional support. So it might make sense now that she was not in a special education specialization. She was just in another MAID program.
So here's,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so Kathleen, school me.
Here's the history.
Okay, good.
Okay, so when we were going through program review as MAID with Jen, there was a question of our credit hours.
Yes.
How many credit hours do we have? And we are over in MAID compared to Mackey, and I think to Mace and Mason. I think we have the most credit hours. So since we combined 671 and 675 into 694, we were short one course. We weren't given permission to just dump that off and be lower course hours or credit hours.
Okay.
So then whole discussion between the MAID team, what course do we want? It needs to come from somewhere. Where are we going to draw it from? And everybody said, let's take a special ed course and put it into the MAID program. And so everybody voted, and we all voted on ESE 601 to be one of our core courses, and that'll make sure that we have enough hours or credits for the students to be in the MAID program. And so that's how we got that course.
And in theory, that's fantastic.
Right, but that was just at the time Jen was leaving.
Okay.
Jen Lori was on her way out, and I think it just slipped through the hole in the crack.
Okay.
That totally makes sense.
Okay.
And like I said, the theory behind it is fantastic. I will make a note now. I've got more homework to do. I will take a look and see if there's anything wording wise. We don't necessarily need to have the PLOs in there, but MAID needs to be included in so that your students feel included in, and probably my blurb that I send in every single welcome announcement of why it's important to take this course, even if you don't plan on going into special education, needs to be moved to the course shell instead of just in an announcement, so that everyone realizes why they're taking the course.
That's good. And I'll reach back with Denise and see if there's something we need to do, if this makes the most sense, or if there is something else that would make more sense. I don't know, but get everybody on the same page with this. Because even when I mentioned it to Julie, she was like, I kind of remember this, but I'm not for sure. Yeah. So anyways, I was afraid that my little 2017 document was in error, but now it's not.
Well, I definitely need to know that, and all of my instructors of 601, I need to let them know as well. And I probably need to touch base with Allie as well, because I know we have a lot of folks coming in from Bright Horizons and the ESE program that takes 601 as well. And I guess they're MASL students, because that's the only graduate program we have, right?
True. That's true. Yeah. Unless they could be getting, we have a child development specialization though. Or they could be getting the early childhood oh no, that would be Tamika's. They could be the dying early childhood.
Is there a dying early childhood?
We do have a child development specialization.
Okay.
But those are ECE.
But then it would still be MAID. It wouldn't be, it would be MAID early childhood versus. Okay.
Are you looking on the website? That's so smart, Kathleen.
Oh, it's, it's my go-to, because if it's in there, it's the gospel. It's gone through governance.
That's a really good point.
So it shows as ESE 601 is one of the courses that the students take. So
will you do me a favor? Can you just pop that in the chat? Just a link, and then I can just copy it into this email.
Yes.
Okay.
That was smart.
So that definitely is a like you said, it was one of those things. We're trying to navigate our way into this role here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, then I will. That's something that we can tackle down the road, but that's just important for us all to know. And then I'm not going to have Lauren though touch I'm calling it yours, but touch that course shell with our updated PLOs. I'm just going to have her leave that one alone.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it and we'll see if it's something that does need to have the PLOs added in, but I don't know that it does. Like I said, I think it's more just, it needs a little bit of introduction wording that feels a little more inclusive for all students. As I said, I've always put it I'm trying to pull that up right now. I always put it in an announcement, and while I have you ladies on for just a second, I will pull said announcement blurb up, but I think I shared it with you once before, Kelly, just when we had an instructor that was a little hesitant for supporting. Okay, here it is. Let's see. It's just a quick little blurb of, in our current education system, all educators and many other professionals will have students in their classrooms, educational center, or campus that have an IEP or 504. And then it talks about general educators, administrators, assessment professionals, specialists, parents, and special educators, and community members. And then we talk about the field of early childhood education through transition planning to adulthood. So it's basically these two paragraphs right here that I put in my announcements every time I run the course that could probably be shifted over to being part of the course shell.
Can I make a suggestion?
Of course, Kathleen.
If we are going to rock the world with these shared capstones and these shared courses, this is just something that happened last night. Like, you have those moments when you're asleep and you go, oh my God, that's such a great idea. We should totally do that. And then you go, oh, it'll never work. But I do think that this one will really work. okay, so many of, and I just want to pick your guys' brains and would love to collaborate with you on this. So like for some of the Senate subcommittees, we are putting information into Canvas and making it a course. So that way, if you come to Professional Development and Scholarship Committee, you would be enrolled in this course and it would tell you all about Professional Development Scholarship Committee, what your duties are, and videos and whatever else, okay? What if a teacher was enrolled in 694, then they were enrolled in 694 instructor course. And we had week 1, this is what you should do. Here's some examples of discussions. Here's some examples of announcements. Here's some helpful tips for your students. Week 2, week 3, week 4. I teach also for NCU, and they do that. They have this whole instructor thing that, you know, here's why the course was built. Here's what we can do, blah, 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 blah.
You know, Jesse just did
like
that.
This?
Jesse,
Yes. Yeah.
that's in progress. That's in progress. But so this is what we took Jesse's and we are making it. Julie and Julie's really taking the lead on this, but I'm trying to finesse some of the back pieces.
Students are blowing up over here.
But in 650, Jackie just added additional per week instructor, like essentially instructor notes, but it's right within the course, like as an additional link.
I love this. This is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
See, good job. Okay, it's done. I'm done.
No, I think it's great, but I think it's really important for us to know that, especially with 601 and 620 and 694 and 696, that we need to make sure it incorporates all the instructors from the programs, because while this, you know, right now, I'll happily invite anybody to my faculty lounge for MACE, but if if one of the MAID instructors is teaching, you know, across programs, or my MACE instructors, like you guys may want to have access to the 601 stuff now that we know that all MAID students are going through 601 and all of that. So having some way to link it, and make sure that everyone has access to it. I think it's a fantastic idea. Now, you know, I show you this pretty layout, Kathleen. We have not filled it in yet. Like, we're still working on the fill it in part. all the information. I'm trying to, you know, work with my associate faculty members and get them to help collaborate in on this as well. So it's not just John and I going through week by week in every single course and filling it in. But it's a work in progress, but I think having the space to do it, like you said, with examples of this is what's meant by this, and here's a video example that I give in this course when I teach it, so that just to make sure our instructors are interpreting the course guide the same way that we intended it to be. I know it's especially important with the capstones.
Cool. I love it. Perfect. You guys are rocking it.
Yeah, it's so good to have the model too, because then Julie and I are doing the easy thing, which is then it'll be like literally any place it says MACE, I just change it to MAID, and then I'm like, oh, here you said ESE, I'm putting in EDE 620.
Well, that's why I told Kate, I was like, share this thing. I'm happy to, you know, we put the hours in. There's no reason someone else should put the hours in. Well, Kathleen, if you haven't seen this yet, I'll add you to it. But one of the cooler things that what my associate faculty use more than this